Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my new video where we are going to be going over 5 tips I think every single Malzahar player needs to know. So they're going to be a little bit different, a little bit out there. So I hope you stick around until the end because I really feel that I can help you out quite a bit in your climb when you are playing Malzahar. If you're new to my channel, my name is LowFit. I do educational content, I do guide videos, tip videos, also stream and have a Discord if you would like to if you'd like to contact me directly, I will put a link to those in the comment section down below, as well as if you have any of your own tips for Malzahar, I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. So without further ado, let's jump into the first tip. Alright, and getting into the first tip, I wanted to go over 2 things that revolve around the Q. First up, the line is very misleading on this Q skill shot reticule. What you want to go and base this off of is the square that is in the middle, because if that is connected with the character model, it is going to hit. As you can see, this is so far away from the line, but the Q is still landing. So you really want to keep this into account, because I don't know why they have such a misleading reticule. This should be a lot thicker of a line. In my opinion, it should have kind of that rune in the middle. It should be spread all the way to each side. So understanding that is going to help out quite a bit. And actually, you can hit even if the square looks like it's a little bit outside. See how it looks kind of outside the model there? It's still hitting, which is pretty crazy. So it is a very generous hitbox, and how you want to play out the Q in trades is you want to look how they are moving in their trades. Are they moving forward after their trade, or are they going backwards after their trade? Are they being passive or aggressive? And how you want to play that out with your Q is, if you're against a passive player, obviously you want to lead a little bit your Q behind them, and if they're an aggressive player, you want to throw it out a little bit in front of them to disencourage them to just keep chasing you down. So keep this in mind. I think this is going to help out quite a bit if you just start paying a little bit more attention to the Q. It's not really as iconic as the E or the R from Malzahar, but hitting your Qs, particularly in the late game, is just going to do so much damage with the 600 damage with this kind of an average build that you're going to have on Malzahar, on top of the 2-second silence is just huge. So it's just extremely important that you are landing these Qs in the late game. So just get really used to the skill shot. If you have to, just go into the practice tool, turn on the auto refresh cooldowns, and get really used to it. And yeah, that will wrap up tip number 1. Okay, and jumping into tip number 2 for Malzahar, I want to talk a little bit about how he plays out overall in a lane phase. So with his insane amount of wave clear, you are going to be able to just throw out your full combo in a wave, and it is going to be just cleared out by your voidlings and your dot, as long as the enemy isn't killing your voidlings right away. So how you want to play out with so much pushing power, how you want to play the champion out, is you want to look for roams afterwards. So this is going to be really good with Malzahar because of his nether grass, provides a lot of utility and is going to be a good amount of damage, and should pretty much win any 2v2 skirmish where you have your ult up. So just keep that in mind. And when you are level 6, you really want to look to contest every single scuttle crab, and your jungler will love it when you're pinging that you're going to assist him at the scuttle, because this is just a great utility for the early skirmishes and also for roaming in the bot lane. So get really used to being around the river quite a bit after pushing in the lanes, because it is just going to really pay off, because you're going to be putting behind your enemy jungler and putting ahead your jungler when you are assisting them with the scuttle crab. And then also obviously it's going to be great to roam down if you're able to with Malzahar, just because of the effectiveness of nether grass. Can really just set up any gank. It's one of the, just point and click suppression is just a extremely strong ability in the game. And that will wrap up tip number 2 for Malzahar. Okay, and for tip number 3, I want to talk a little bit about positioning when you are fighting with Malzahar, because of his really how he's an immobile champion but has a crap ton of damage. How you want to look to play out team fights or skirmishes, you want to stay pretty much at your max Q range when you are generally looking to fight, and when one person maybe moves up, maybe a Sejuani engages, you can start throwing your E's, because you are going to be a very, very high value target with your ultimate. Even when you're behind, you're able to really provide a lot of utility through silences and suppressions for your team and for just overall from your champions. So staying at this range is going to be rather important, and there are a couple ways to approach the Nether Grasp in your positioning, but there's just a quick rule of thumb for low elo players. If your team is very far ahead and you're snowballing really hard, you can look for a ult and a flash in with your ultimate. But if you're behind or in an even game state, usually it's better to pick a target where you are not flashing in and then making it extremely easy for the enemy team to CC you and stop your suppression. You want to stay in the back line, wait for a diver. Maybe they have a Yasuo, Kha'Zix, Rengar, where you just can Nether Grasp them when they come in. And then obviously you really want to be checking the inventory slots of everyone on the enemy team constantly to see if they have a QSS, because one lost team fight in the late game can really put your team behind, and them just QSSing your ultimate really you're just not getting too much effectiveness out of your kit if that is happening. And that will go over this kind of my quick tips on positioning. If you have any questions for me, I'd love to help you out in the comments down below. Okay, and we're going to jump into tip number 4. I'm going to talk a little bit about optimal trading with Malzahar, and this is going to revolve a lot around the refresh duration of your Q, or your E, with your Malefic Visions that is caused by your Q and your R. So a pre-6 trade that would be pretty optimal would be an auto E, you let the minions loose, auto, and then try and hit your Q for the refresh on the E and just get that really nice double tick damage. This is going to change again when you hit level 6. You want to make sure that they are at a lower health percentage so you can finish them off with their ult and they cannot flash away. And then obviously if they're dashing in on you, you can look for the R, but just really keep in mind it is so important for Malzahar's whole kit and his damage that you're landing that Q and that you're refreshing the Malefic Visions. Don't be just going Q, E, and then W and then walking away. You're missing out on a lot of damage. How you want to do it would be E, auto, W, and then into Q to really just get that full double tick. And that will wrap up tip number 4 for Malzahar. Alright, and let's jump into the final tip for Malzahar, and I want you guys to start thinking about your W as a different ability than you might traditionally do. It's just a pure damage source. Void Swarm is able to block enemy skill shots, and how you effectively use this is look for a extremely high impact spell that cannot go through minions and save that Void Swarm for it. So this is going to be something like a Blitzcrank Q or a Xerath E stun. You might want to be saving the Void Swarm cooldown for a just as more of a blocker and less as damage. If you think you are under threat, maybe it's a jungler coming, maybe it's an Elise that is looking to cocoon you, you really want to try and play around these Void Swarms. Also something that is pretty particular, but a specific champion that this is going to be extremely good against would be something like Graves, that his autos don't go through minions, so being able to play out those ganks is going to be a little bit easier for you if you are able to just get behind your Void Swarm and stop maybe 1 or 2 extra auto attacks from the Graves. So keep that in mind. That's going to be my final tip. If you want any further explanation on any of these, I'd love to help you out in the comments down below. I know this very old champion, but I kind of like enjoy doing guides on these older champions because there isn't really too much stuff out there on it, and I know that there's still a big player base for those champions. So that'll wrap it up, you guys. If you have any questions, again, you can hit me up on Twitch or Discord. I'm going to put the links down below, and take it easy.